What's happening, everybody? Tim Kreitz here, coming at you from the park on a beautiful West Texas summer day. I've been out riding all afternoon, and this park is kind of quiet, and I thought it might be a good opportunity for me to make a short video telling you guys why I decided not to buy the Z900 RS. You guys were very curious about that on social media, Facebook, Instagram, etc., when I posted that I was going to be test riding and that I was intending to buy one. I had set the money aside. I was starting to sweet talk my wife, all of those types of things. But I didn't buy it, and I raised a lot of questions from people who were really looking forward to me getting it and reviewing it and making videos with it. That just never happened. And the reason why is simply because I saw the bike in person and I test rode it. And after that, there's no way I was going to spend $12,000 on that bike. That bike, in my opinion, is nothing but a series of compromises on Kawasaki's part. It's not even a retro bike in a lot of ways. All Kawasaki was trying to do was build something that was retro-ish around an existing chassis and an existing power plant. That's what it all came down to. And the result is basically a modern bike that doesn't fit itself very well, that is in no way reminiscent of anything retro other than its paint job. The bike's got a monoshock, the bike's got modern suspension, the bike has modern wheels. Everything about the bike is modern. The only thing that's even remotely retro is a few of the design cues, the paint scheme, and that's really about it. The bike doesn't harken back to the early 70s or even mid 70s Z bikes. You guys will remember that I used to have one of those. I restored a 78 KZ1000 Limited. And I loved that bike. In fact, selling it was one of the worst mistakes I ever made. Although I did sell it to buy my Triumph, which I've been very happy with over the last 5 years. But overall, the bike just disappointed me. And I couldn't figure out for the life of me a handful of things about the design. Number one, why did Kawasaki detune the engine? The Z900 engine that it's based on is already detuned for the street, already tuned for torque, and that's a great engine. Why detune it more? It makes no sense. Was it because of the lack of aerodynamics? I don't know. I mean, the Z900 itself, the normal Z900, the regular bike, already is a naked bike, so it's not exactly an aerodynamic masterpiece in and of itself. Just doesn't make any sense to me why they messed with the engine the way they did. Another thing about the bike is that it's very, very tall compared to my 78 KZ1000. In fact, I'm on my tippy toes on the Z900 RS, and on my KZ1000 Limited, I was firmly on the ground at 5'9" with the bottoms of my feet, with bend in my knees. So the stature of the bike, the way it puts you into the saddle and forces you to sit a certain way and ride a certain way, is just more compromised from Kawasaki. The reason it's like that, and there's not a doubt in my mind, is because they had to fit the ergonomics around the engine and the chassis and make it look retro. It's really frustrating to me to see how many guys are gushing over this motorcycle when it's nothing special. Let me tell you something. If you like the Z900 power plant, just buy a Z900. Don't buy the RS. The RS costs almost 50% more for a bike that was built on cutting corners. A regular Z900 is about $8,500, $8,600. So why in the world would you pick the RS version? That's a mystery to me. Also, I've got to admit that I don't really at all like the way they're marketing the bike. They're marketing it to old hipsters. They're marketing it, you can tell by their TV commercials and promo videos, they're marketing the bike to dudes in their mid-50s who want a 25-year-old girlfriend. And I don't want to be associated with that. I don't know about any other guys in their mid-40s to mid-50s like me who do want to be associated with that sort of an image. The sort of pathetic aging hipster who's still trying to be cool. Hey man, either you're cool or you're not cool. A motorcycle's not going to do it for you. And I sort of resented Kawasaki's marketing campaign. This is all obviously just an opinion on my part, but my opinion's just like yours. It's 100% right 100% of the time, and that's why I have it, right? The bike handled okay, but again, it felt really top heavy, and it felt like it would take a lot of tweaking to really get the bike to handle the way a sport bike would handle, because they clearly went that way. Why would you do a monoshock? Why would you do the forks the way they did the forks? Why would you set up the geometry the way they set the geometry up if you weren't at least in some way trying to mimic a modern sport bike or have modern handling performance in that regard? Let me tell you something. I've been thousands and thousands and thousands of miles on that KZ1000 Limited, and the bikes are in no way related to one another. They don't feel the same, they don't sound the same, they don't taste the same, you don't sit the same, they don't handle the same. The suspension has absolutely nothing in common on the new bike from the old bike, and I don't know, I'm just really disappointed in Kawasaki. I think that's what it boils down to more than anything. I'm disappointed in Kawasaki. They did the Z-Rex. They know how to get a retro bike right. That's why I've had my Z-Rex for well over a decade, going on, I guess, 13 years, something like that, and have no plans to get rid of it. They hit the nail on the head. But man, they really screwed it up with the Z900 RS. And there's no way I was going to pay that kind of coin for such a motorcycle. Not when there are a whole bunch of bikes just like this one on the used market behind me for just a few $1,000s that you can take, dump a little bit of refurbishing and love into, and you've got a great motorcycle that does exactly what the Z900 RS was trying to do and failed. So, you know, unless you're just somebody with more money than sense and you got a lot of extra cash you're wanting to drop on something new and novel, I would recommend not buying the Z900 RS. As much as it pains me to say that as a lifelong Kawasaki fan, it just kind of makes me sad that I reached that conclusion about it. But that's why I didn't buy it. Honestly, if you guys want to get something that's truly retro and truly reminiscent of what it is made to represent, get one of the previous generation Triumph Bonnevilles. I love mine, and it hits the nail on the head as far as being a retro. It feels like an old bike, it looks like an old bike, it sounds like an old bike, it has the suspension and the geometry of an old bike. It isn't something that was recycled from modern parts and modern chassis. Triumph did that bike right. I guess that's why I've kept the bike all these years and have no plans to get rid of that one either. So there are better ways to go retro than the Z900 RS, I'll tell you that, and there are certainly cheaper ways. Now, is it a pretty bike? Overall, yeah, from a distance, and especially in 2 dimensions. If you've only seen it on the internet, you obviously will think that it's a really beautiful bike. But when you see it in 3 dimensions, you see how weird the dimensions are. It's a little wider than it should be. It's strangely wide. It's almost VMAX wide. It's weird. It's hard to understand. It almost has the width of a cruiser bike, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And that doesn't feel retro. If you've ever ridden a 70s or 60s UJM, you know that those bikes weren't terribly wide, even with a big 4-cylinder engine. In fact, on my 78 KZ1000, Kawasaki let the engine hang out the side of the bike rather than making the frame really wide and the tank really wide. I mean, you could land a helicopter on the Z900 RS's gas tank. It's ridiculous. The whole genre is sort of becoming a caricature of itself at this point. So I'm not saying don't buy a Z900. They're pretty. They do perform well by all accounts. They're wheelie machines if you're into that sort of thing, and you will be able to derive something good out of them if you buy one. But I would feel a lot better about the motorcycle if it was $8,500 like the regular Z900 or somewhere closer. Anyway, that about wraps it up. I hope you enjoyed my probably too brutal take on this. It's not that big a deal. If you like the bike, buy it. I just didn't like the bike, and it hurt my feelings that I didn't like the bike. I guess that's why I'm being such a jerk about the deal, is that I really wanted to buy the bike. I wanted to like the bike, and I wanted the bike to be more like my 78 KZ1000, and it just wasn't. And I was a little heartbroken, and I still am. But thankfully, I have the ZRX, so it's all good. I've got my old school Kawasaki, and God willing, it'll last me for years to come, and it's not even an issue for me. Those of you guys who don't have an old school Kawasaki, I feel bad for you. You should try to get one, but maybe not the Z900 RS. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.